For over half a century, one sentence has been used to justify firing workers, exploiting employees, and putting profits above people. The social responsibility of a business is to increase its profits. CEOs say it comes from Milton Friedman, the most influential economist of the 20th century. They've been quoting it for decades. But the thing is, this sentence is the title of a 1970 article Friedman wrote for the New York Times. And most of these CEOs didn't even read that full article. And that, it turns their entire justification for ruthless profit-seeking into a violation of its own principle. The man they call their prophet might just be their biggest critic. In the early 1960s, the US economy was booming. Companies were growing like crazy, factories were expanding, jobs were everywhere, and corporate America was riding high on the post-war wave. So naturally, society demanded more from them. People started saying corporations shouldn't just make money, they should solve social problems too. Environmental protection, civil rights, community programs, all of it. Executives were suddenly expected to behave like part-time politicians and charity directors. It created a fundamental tension at the heart of capitalism. Who are corporations really accountable to? Their shareholders who provide the capital, or the broader society that gave them the license to operate? So what happened? Companies started spending money on social responsibility projects to look good, and shareholders weren't exactly thrilled. They were asking, if I give a company my money to grow a business, why is the CEO using it to build a public park or fund a political campaign? That's not why I invested. That's taxation without representation, but imposed by a CEO, not a government. This tension kept building. Society pushed for more responsibility, shareholders pushed back for more accountability, and corporations were stuck in the middle, trying to be all things to all people. However, things escalated fast. By the late 1960s, the idea of corporate social responsibility wasn't just a trend, it was a movement. CEOs were publicly announcing social agenda. Some were even promising to reduce pollution or fix income inequality before governments did. To many people, this was admirable. It felt like enlightened leadership. But to Milton Friedman, the economist from the University of Chicago, it looked like a dangerous, unconstitutional power grab. Because in his mind, something fundamental was breaking. Corporate executives were spending money that didn't belong to them to pursue social and political objectives that they weren't elected to achieve. They were, in effect, imposing a private tax on shareholders and deciding unilaterally how to spend it. So in 1970, he fired back. But not with a textbook, not with a research paper. He wrote an opinion essay in the New York Times magazine, and he wanted it to hit like a punch. It wasn't a dry economic analysis, it was a polemic, a deliberate provocation against the prevailing winds of his time. Everyone knows the first sentence. The social responsibility of a business is to increase its profits. That line became the billboard, the slogan, the weapon. But what people never include is the very next clause. And here's what you've never heard. So long as it stays within the rules of the game, which is to say, engages in open and free competition without deception or fraud. Now let's be absolutely clear. Friedman's primary target was corporate social spending. His central argument was indeed that a corporate executive is an employee of the shareholders, and spending their money on social causes is a form of theft. He wanted to stop CEOs from acting like unelected politicians. But, and this is a critical but, he didn't give them a blank check to make those profits. He built a fence, a condition. They must make those profits while following the law and while following ethical customs, not bending the rules, twisting the rules, pretending the rules doesn't exist. He didn't say by any means necessary, he said by the rules of the game. And this is where the misunderstanding isn't just a mistake, it's a deliberate omission, because this clause wasn't an afterthought, it was a necessary foundation for his entire argument. Without it, his claim collapses into advocating for anarchy, a believer in order, liberty, and the rule of law would never support. He was trying to restrain corporate power to one domain, profitable enterprise conducted ethically and legally. He wasn't unleashing corporations, he was attempting to cage them within a specific rule-bound arena. But what happened next is that the business world embraced the first half of the sentence like a revolutionary manifesto and treated the second half like an inconvenient fine print. They wanted the weapon, but not the responsibility. So, under Friedman's own doctrine, a business that maximizes profit by polluting, defrauding, or exploiting its workers isn't being a savvy capitalist. It is failing its core social responsibility. The profit from a poisoned river is not a triumph of his doctrine. It is its betrayal. Now we hit the turning point where theory met practice, and the doctrine was cut in half. The age of Jack Welch. Jack Welch, the legendary CEO of General Electric from 1981 to 2001, became the living embodiment of the misinterpreted Friedman doctrine. His mantra was shareholder value as a supreme singular metric. Under Welch, General Electric became a profit machine. How? He cut tens of thousands of jobs in ruthless restructuring. He shifted General Electric's focus from industrial manufacturing to financial services, where profits were quicker and bigger. He pioneered the use of quarterly earning management to meet Wall Street expectations at all costs. The stock price soared. Welch was crowned manager of the century, and the business world looked at him and said, he is following Friedman's playbook, profits above all. But let's hold up that reality against Friedman's full sentence. Did Jack Welch's GE really follow ethical business norms? Because years later, the company nearly collapsed in 2008. The reason wasn't some random shock. It was GE Capital, an arm built on risky, hard-to-understand financial deals. That doesn't look like long-term thinking. It looks like a company focused on appearing profitable. Then there were the layoffs. So many that Welch earned the nickname Neutron Jack. The building stayed, but the people didn't. Were those cuts truly about efficiency, or were they about pushing the stock price up just enough to hit short-term targets? If it was the second, then this wasn't long-term value creation. It was a short-term performance dressed up as strategy. The point is not to prosecute Jack Welch. The point is that he became the symbol for a version of Friedman that Friedman never wrote. He operationalized the increased profits half and let the conforming to ethical custom half fade into the background. It was financially successful in the short term, and so the misinterpretation was canonized. Business schools, consulting firms, and Wall Street analysts took this Welchified version and spread it like gospel. The doctrine simplified further. Step 1. Increase shareholder value. Step 2. See Step 1. Now this leads to an uncomfortable question. What if the misinterpretation wasn't an accident, but inevitable? Imagine for a second that every CEO in 1980 had a perfect, underlined copy of Friedman's full article. They all read the part about ethical custom and the rules of the game. They all vowed to follow it. What happens next? Well, they're still in a system where their only mandated, measurable, rewarded goal is to increase profits. Their bonuses, their stock options, their legacy, all tied to that one number. The pressure is immense, quarterly, and relentless. Now, a choice appears. On one path, compete fearlessly but fairly. Innovate, build a better product. This is Friedman's ideal. On the other path, you see a rule. Maybe it's an environmental regulation that costs money. Maybe it's a labor law that cuts into margins. Maybe ethical custom says you shouldn't use addictive design in your app, but the data shows it increases engagement and profit. The system, the very system Friedman championed, whispers a question. What if you could bend that rule just a little? What if you could lobby to weaken it? What if you could find a legal loophole that technically complies but violates the spirit? The reward for finding that edge is massive. The penalty for not finding it while a competitor does could be oblivion. This is the contradiction at the heart of the doctrine. Friedman argued that the pursuit of profit within rules would be self-policy, but he underestimated the corrosive, innovative power of profit-seeking when it turns its focus to the rules themselves. The most profitable innovation in modern capitalism hasn't always been a new product. Sometimes it's been a new financial instrument that hides risk, a new legal structure to avoid taxes, a new classification to avoid labor costs. This isn't just ignoring Friedman's clause. This is using the profit motive he sanctified to dismantle the very rules he said were sacred. The great critic of corporate social spending failed to see a different danger, that the profit-maximizing agent wouldn't just ignore social good. It would actively work to shrink the playing field, to lower defenses, to reinterpret ethical custom down to nothing, all in the name of the only goal it was ever given. So the CEOs aren't just misreading Friedman. In a twisted way, they are his most perfect students. They're maximizing profits by minimizing constraint.